How's it going, everyone? My name is Will from Ghost Hack, and today I'm going to show you how to turn a simple saw base into this really interesting little juicy growl. Alright, so keep in mind while you're watching that the purpose of this video is not necessarily to show you how to make this really sick, nasty growl. It's more to show you the power of post-processing and how you can take a really simple sound, such as a basic saw wave, and turn it into something more, turn it into something interesting, really elevate it. So of course it starts its life as a singular saw wave inside of Serum. You can see it's just a saw and it has a little down pitch here with this LFO. Now, there is a sub going on here. I have this citrus sub that is doing a little slide down, but I only turn that on when I pair it with the actual post-processed growl sound, because that's when I actually cut the sub of the saw. But we just have a basic saw and all the sound really comes out of the post-processing. So on this channel one, the first thing we have is an EQ, and right away we are really going to sculpt the vowel to make it really a growl. You can see how everything's moving around, and I have these automating. I have this high pass filter here with a little bit of a bump going on to create some resonance. I have a low pass filter which doesn't really have any resonance. It's just cutting down the highs. And then I have this really big wide notch right here that goes really wide, and then you can see it automates to become thinner. And you can see all the automation that's happening right here in the track. So this is the automation, see the band 4 width. This is going to be the width of that that notch filter. You see at the very top, it's super wide. And then when it comes down toward the middle, it closes inward. Next, we have this band 7 frequency, which this is the low pass filter. And what this is doing is this is coming down very subtly. It's just taking the high end and it's just bringing it down slightly. Then of course we have insert 1, which is the high pass filter, which has a little bit of a peak to it, and it is sliding up a little more harshly. You can see it's not quite as subtle as this low pass filter is. But then finally we have this band 4 frequency, and this band 4, this is going back to the notch. We are controlling the width of the notch right here. This is basically sliding the frequency down. So the notch itself, even if it were not moving back and forth like this at all, it's just sliding down a little bit. So we're sliding down as it is doing this motion as well. This is creating this overall shape, which is very vowely. You can really observe that. Of course, now the sound is very, very weak because you can see all these frequencies that we've cut out. So I'm going to go ahead and slap an OTT on there. This is free from Xfer. So that brings out a little more power. It's still not very strong, but I just wanted to bring out as much as I can with this OTT right here. Next up, I have a Maximus on, and what I'm actually doing with this Maximus is not much at all. You can see on the master, I'm not really doing anything, neither on the high end or the mid frequencies. It's really on the low end that I'm doing this. And let's see, you can see it. Yeah, you can see exactly what it's doing right here. There are 2 separate little peaks right here of the low end. And I thought the peaks were a little too strong right at the beginning and right at the end, and they weren't strong enough in the middle range. So what I did here, I can make this Maximus a little bigger for you, is I created this shape. I made sure to compress everything going over this threshold, and using the little half sign shape here, I just created this shape so everything else under this threshold gets boosted a little bit. You can see the line where it's cutting down the volume and then bringing the volume back up and then cutting it down again. Maximus is very useful for those little intricate kind of things. So that's all I use the Maximus for. Next, I just threw on another OTT. Now we're starting to bring out a lot more of the high frequencies. We can get a little more of the vowel. After that, I put on a Vocodex. Now, to be honest, this Vocodex is not necessary. Like if you took this Vocodex off, you could still have a pretty good sound at the end. I can show you before and after, but this just makes it a little bit thicker and a little bit juicier. You can especially hear in the low end that it gets very strong. It is a little messy, but we're going to do other things to clean it up. I have the wet all the way up as well as the sound goodizing all the way on. Now I made sure to turn these time variables down to RMS instead of peak. And with these minimum times selected, I can turn all of these down. This minimum times is basically saying if I turn all of these down, it's going to take the time variables as low as it can go without distorting, because there's also some it's almost like compression in here that you have to control the time variables. I put the order all the way up to 4, which is not something I normally do, but I brought the bands down to like 20, and then I can bring these all the way up to make it sound extra thick. After that, you can kind of play with these formant areas. The higher you turn it, the more it's going to sound, higher pitched, almost like female. And then the lower you bring it, the lower the formants are going to sound like it's deeper, like a male. I brought the formants up a little bit because it was already very deep with that EQ. And then once I turned the voices up to 5, I just turned this all the way up because I tend to believe that makes it sound thicker. Sometimes you can't really tell a difference, but I like to just do it as a habit. So now we have a little bit of a juicier sound. And now we can hop right into these Serum effects. So now I'm just going to turn the effects off, and we begin in here with a filter. Now already that is drastically changing the sound. I am using a Phaser 48 Plus from the Flanges tab right here. And this is a very common effect to use on a really gnarly sort of Skrillex growl that people use a lot, is this phaser. And you can hear when I turn the resonance up exactly what it does. Let me turn the mix and the resonance up. It just creates these peaks that, when mixed in correctly, sound very, very good in growls of this sort. These kind of formant peaks, it makes it sound like an animal. So I can just turn the resonance down a bit and the mix down a bit as well, and just find a good spot for each of them. The cutoff I have here is at 1110 hertz. That's kind of a key. That little area right there is finding the perfect position where all the peaks and valleys are in a very good spot to create that vowel sound. Next up, I noticed it was lacking a little bit of high end, so I added a tiny bit of down sampling here. And I turned the drive up to about 15%. I'm actually modulating this mix. It's hard to hear, but you can see it a little bit up there. You can see that little motion if I turn it off. That motion is not there. This is just adding a little bit of crispy high end. And you notice the mix is going up and down. I'm actually modulating that with this right here. This is just the distortion wet. I just modulated that up and down very subtly. There's nothing really complex about this modulation either. It's just going up and down. After that, this is a very mono signal. I wanted to add a little bit of hyperdimension, just a tad, not too much. Too much can really ruin a growl if you use it in the wrong scenarios. But I kind of messed with these settings here. I found a good spot for the rate, 19%, the detune 20%, and I turned on retrigger. The unison is actually all the way up to 7. Normally it starts out as 4, but I just turned it up all the way and mixed it in like 23%, just a little bit of spread there. As far as the dimension goes, the size all the way down, mix up just a little bit, just a bit, 7%, and we get a little bit of extra spread. And we also get a little more vowel as well, because you can hear a little more voices, and the vowel and the frequency spectrums, it's kind of brought out a little bit. After that, turn on a phaser. What I did here is turn the rate, depth, frequency all the way down, pulled back the feedback a little bit, and just mixed it in actually a good bit. This kind of gives you almost a guitar amp effect, like with the full effect. That's what it sounds like. It just kind of shapes the spectrum into a more harsh shape. So it mixes in pretty well with these kind of growls. After that, of course, multi-band compression, driving it through. Everything's at just 100% normal there. And then I brought the threshold down to like negative 12.3. And it makes it very, very strong. I also brought the release up so we didn't get too much of those weird artifacts at the end. Lastly, I threw on just a tad bit of chorus. Nothing much here. The full effect sounds like this, but that's obviously way too strong. I just wanted a little bit mixing in. So it's really starting to come together now. After that, I can flip on an EQ, and this is just some general EQing. Cut the sub, lower the high end because it was very, very strong, and then a specific frequency in here sounded a little bit ugly to me. So I just ducked it down. We have another OTT. Now we're bringing out a lot of the high end. It's becoming a lot crispier. Then we have FL Studio's native OTT, aka Sound Goodizer. Wow, that makes it very, very strong. I like it. And then finally, I just wrapped it up with a little bit of an EQ to do some final cleanup work. And I'm just rolling down the sub here. I'm taking out frequencies that were ugly. Like that's ugly right there, and this right here. It's messy, so I took those out, or cut them down a little bit. I found some good spots in here that I thought needed some extra help. Right in there, it sounds kind of nice. And then right here, just to give it a little more body. And then I took out a little bit of high frequencies because they are very harsh, and just rolled it off a little bit. And there is no sub, so once we add the citrus sub, which sounds like this, we get this growl. For just a saw wave, I think this growl actually turned out pretty nice. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, leave a thumbs up. If you really liked the video, you can hit subscribe and get more videos like this. Seriously, we're coming out with a lot of music production videos and tutorials all the time, so hit subscribe. You have nothing to lose. All you're going to get is knowledge. So thank you guys for all the support, and I will see you in the next video. Happy producing.